Hello, everyone. This is DUT, and welcome to today's episode. My name is Miss Johnson, and I'm an autism specialist dedicated to supporting educators, families, and professors in understanding and addressing challenging behaviors in students with autism spectrum disorder, also known as ASD. In this episode, we'll explore how operant conditioning and behavioral modification strategies can be used to reduce severe self-harm behaviors in students with autism. To bring these ideas to life, we'll use a case example. Let's go by the pseudonym AT. This is a 10-year-old student with autism who engages in self-injurious behaviors, also what we call SIB, like biting, especially when faced with challenging tasks or changes in routine. This particular student bites themselves on the forearm when frustrated. By the end of this podcast, you'll have a better understanding of how operant principles can inform effective interventions and how collaboration and consistency across environments are key to success. In segment 1, we'll understand severe self-harm behaviors with students with autism. Self-injurious behaviors, again, it's also referred as SIB, is any behavior that causes physical harm to oneself. It could be anything like hitting, biting, scratching, or headbanging. In the context of autism, these behaviors can emerge for several reasons, including sensory overload. It could be frustration. It could be communication or to escape from a difficult or too long of a demand. Even sometimes it's used to seek attention. And while self-injurious behavior can look different for every student, it's important to remember that these behaviors are communicative. They often serve a function when a child lacks more adaptive ways to express needs. And according to Madsen and Turgeon in 2012, functional behavioral assessments and reinforcement-based interventions are among the most effective approaches for addressing severe behaviors such as self-injurious behavior. However, interventions must always be guided by ethical considerations. And we have to ensure the safety and preventing trauma and maintaining that student's respect and dignity. And in segment 2, we discuss operant conditioning. And to understand how we can modify severe self-harm behaviors, we need to look at the foundation of operant conditioning. This was a theory developed by B.F. Skinner. The basic idea is simple. Behaviors are shaped by their consequences. In this, there are 4 main components of operant conditioning. There's positive reinforcement, where a behavior is followed by a rewarding consequence, and it increases the likelihood of that behavior happening again. And negative reinforcement, this behavior leads to the removal of something unpleasant, also increasing the behavior. And punishment, this decreases the likelihood of a behavior by introducing an aversive consequence and an extinction, which occurs when a behavior no longer produces the expected outcome. It usually leads to a decrease of overtime. As Cooper, Heron, and Hayward said in 2020, described in their foundational text, Applied Behavior Analysis, these principles are at core of how we teach and shape adaptive behavior in students with autism. Segment 3, we're going to discuss applying operant conditioning to our student, pseudonym AT. So let's return to this student for a second in our case example. Through a functional behavior assessment, or an FBA as we call it, we identified a clear pattern. ABC. A, antecedent, behavior, and C, consequence. An antecedent is presented before the behavior arrives, and in this case, it was a difficult academic task. In behavior, this student begins to hit their head. Consequence, the student is removed from the task or given a break. From this, we learn that AT self-harm serves as an escape function, a way to avoid difficult work. Maybe it could be the length, maybe it could be the task at hand, or maybe it could be the fact that it's non-preferred. But to address, a behavioral modification plan was developed and using several operant condition techniques. First, our team implemented differential reinforcement of other behavior, or what we know as DRO. This means that AT receives positive reinforcement like praise, tokens, or something tangible or edible. Next, the team focuses on teaching replacement behaviors. So AT learn to use an AAC device and communication cards to request breaks appropriately. They were gradually introduced to her, taught how to use, and now that particular student is showing us what needs to be done, what they need to do to communicate. And then over time, the student begins to use those tools instead of self-injury to communicate their frustration. And additionally, the plan includes responsive blocking and extinction procedures where self-harm has occurred. The staff safely blocks the behavior and avoid allowing it to serve its previous function, which was escape from demands. In Hanley, Iwata, and McCord in 2003, they highlight that this combination of functional analysis and reinforcement-based treatment is among the most empirical support approaches for reducing problem behavior in applied settings. Segment 4, implementation and collaboration. A critical part of success in any intervention is collaboration. This includes teachers, paraprofessionals, any kind of related service providers, and caregivers. They must all be on the same page as a team. The team supporting AT received training on reinforcement schedules, data collection and progress monitoring, and de-escalation procedures to ensure consistency across the school and home settings, which means this will be generalized. Equally important is the fidelity, the dedication of the implementation, making sure that the plan is being followed exactly as it was designed. And without fidelity, it's impossible to know whether changes in behavior are due to intervention or other variables. Regular data review meetings, going over progress monitoring, allow the team to analyze achievement and make necessary adjustments or modifications. And during the duration of this process, they remain mindful of ethical standards, ensuring all the strategies comply with district policies, state regulations, and the professional code of conduct for behavior analysis. Segment 5, monitoring progress and fading supports. Monitoring progress is essential for maintaining accountability and celebrating the growth. The team that's collected the data and done the progress monitoring on both the frequency and intensity of AT self-harm incidents. But over several weeks, AT demonstrated a consistent decline in self-injury and an increase in appropriate communication. His behavior stabilized, the reinforcement schedule was gradually faded. So we are looking at behaviors being less undesirable behaviors are being shown and more desirables are. And that means rewards became less frequent as we wean away from that. It's vital to celebrate the small wins along the way. And positive reinforcement, even in the form of a verbal praise, helps sustain motivation for both students and staff. And in closing, severe self-harm behaviors in students with autism can be effectively reduced through the systematic and ethical use of operant conditioning and behavior modification strategies. Key tools are consistency, partnership, and data-driven decision-making. Every member of a student's IEP or R team play an essential role in supporting their behavioral challenge. If you're a professional looking to deepen your understanding of applied behavior analysis, or ABA, I implore you to explore foundational readings like Cooper, Heron, Hayward's Applied Behavior Analysis, and to seek out ongoing professional development opportunities. Again, thank you for listening. I'm Ms. Johnson, your autism specialist, and this has been an episode of AUDT on using operant conditioning and behavior modifications to support your students on the spectrum. Stay tuned for more evidence-based strategies and further episodes. Bye, and have a wonderful night.